Hi everyone, Petrik here. In today's conversation on my YouTube channel, we have someone special here because today we have Anthony, the owner of Curious King. I think many of you know that I'm a huge fan of Curious King production. I think they are creating some of the best produced books in science fiction and fantasy right now. And yeah, I'm truly honored to have you here, Anthony. And well, because everyone is watching right now, can you introduce yourself first?
Hi Petrik. Thanks for having me on. I'm Anthony. I run Curious King, and we do fine press editions of everyone's favorite sci-fi and fantasy novels.
Yeah. So just to get things started, what got you into the business of making high quality SFF fine press editions?
So I actually started off as a collector. I looked back on this actually the other day because I was like, when did I actually start collecting? Because it wasn't long from when I started collecting that I started the press, to be honest. So it was 5 years ago, I think I actually started.
Oh,
5 years ago, I started collecting books, and I was trying. It's no secret, everyone knows my favorite series is the Malazan Book of the Fallen, which is incredible. And so I started by trying to buy some hardback books. Trying to buy. I only had the ones that you read, the paperbacks, etc. So I tried to find some hardback ones so I could stick them on my shelf because I'm a bit of a collector of things in general. So and I was just searching for some first editions of those. That's kind of how I got started, really. And then I came across the Gardens of the Moon done by Subterranean Press, which blew my brains out, really. I saw the art of Anamanda Rake on the front, and I was completely blown away by it. I was like, what is this? Where is this? So anyway, I tracked it down and found out it was Subterranean Press, and they'd done a special edition. I never really heard of special editions for books before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, signed by the author and stuff, and amazing cover, and I think there was some art in it as well. And I was like, oh my God, I need this. I need to have it. So I looked for it, and they were going for something silly on the secondhand market, like 50 or something. And I was like, oh, I can't afford that. Oh no, what am I going to do? So that kind of put that in, but it got me onto Subterranean Press, and so I just started doing more research into them. And long story short, I started collecting books. I started collecting the ones that I could afford, the ones not on the secondhand market, and usually the standard versions. But yeah, so I started collecting them and really, really enjoyed it. And how I actually got started in it was quite a funny story. So I posted something on Reddit years ago it must have been 4 years ago, about Gardens of the Moon, the limited edition, and where I could find it so expensive, blah blah blah. Anyway, somebody commented on it and saying, "Oh, if I had that kind of money, I'd just have a paperback rebound, and I get commission an artist to do my own cover, so I have a one-on-one." And I was like, oh, "That's an amazing idea. That's brilliant. I really do that." So that's kind of how it started. So basically, I went online. And I found. I mean, I shouldn't have done this, but I do own the book. Online, I found a PDF of Gardens of the Moon, and I just basically went on a little personal project in evenings and stuff and weekends of trying to create my own version. So I started laying out the text, taught myself in design, started going through that, and then put together some designs for the bindings, had it printed, and then found all those bookbinders that were recommended by a printer that I used. And they were very, very expensive. But at this point, I was all in. I've been doing this for about 9 months. I've been working really hard on this, going through it line by line, trying to make sure it's perfect and all this sort of stuff. And so I eventually went with Ludlow's because they got a reputation, and they sent me the book when it was done, and I was blown away by it. I just couldn't believe how good it looked. I was surprised because I thought the design was nice, but I didn't realize I'd never had that high quality sort of leather binding before, and the foil stamping by someone like Ludlow's. So but by this point I was part of the collecting groups on Facebook. And people might want to see it, so I posted it out, and people were really positive about it. They thought it was great. So that sort of gave me the idea, really. I was like, oh, maybe I could do it properly. So that's kind of how it started. So then I wanted to embark on my first published book, so I came up with the name and did all that sort of stuff. And then I was getting no luck contacting publishers. No one was really responding. Because I don't know why. No track record. Who's this guy, etc. But I spoke to a chap called Arnold Cha, a really nice guy. Know Arnold, and he was like, "Well, why don't you do a rebind for your first one?" I was like, "Oh, okay." That's not a bad idea, actually, because it's a bit cheaper to do. Find some first editions, get them bound. And then we came up with Ready Player One, and that was the first project. And that was back in, we started in 2021. I think it delivered in 2022. And then after the success of that, I sort of used that then to go just redouble my efforts and try and license the story properly rather than rebinding. To get a chance by Mr. Joe Abercrombie, and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, I actually found out about you definitely through that Malazan rebind. That's an amazing project, passion project, but the result is absolutely incredible. Was that in Letterpress too?
No. So you can't letterpress for only 2 copies. I only made 2 copies. Made one for me.
Okay.
But I had to have that one digitally printed, just because of the setup costs of letterpress printing. So that was done digitally. I hadn't even really heard of letterpress printing at the time. I think it was Rich. Yeah, I didn't even know about letterpress printing when I did my first book, the personal project. I was speaking to Rich from Lyris Press. He was coming out with Stardust, and I felt sorry for the poor guy. I just pumped him for loads of questions. I was like, what's all this? And I discovered the whole Letterpress thing, and it just blew my mind, really. I just couldn't believe that the effort and the work and the tactile nature of it, and the fact that it's a bit of a dying art, etc. It ticks my my collecting boxes, that's for sure. So so then I decided if I can try and do these things Letterpress, then I will.
Awesome. That's awesome. And before we move on to the next question, we're just gonna answer this one first because someone asked, can someone please ask if it's possible to speed up the release of the first law? It's not IW. Yeah, so this is the first law. How about that, Anthony?
So I am trying. I'm trying. So unfortunately, Tommy, due to scheduling, he got married, and I think he's planning to have a family. He took a more of a steady work thing rather than doing the freelance stuff. So his schedule meant that we couldn't carry on using Tommy for books 2 and 3, which I really wanted to do, just because Tommy did such a great job on the first book. But again, at the same time, I understand one thing a lot of people don't realize is for the top sort of concept and fancy sci-fi artists, those sort of people, the freelance work doesn't pay anywhere, or the book work doesn't pay anywhere near as well as TV and movies and games. They get paid much more for doing that, and it's on a day rate, and it's so a lot of artists who do work with us tend to do this in evenings and weekends. So it means that they are trying to find time to go and do these things. So, but yeah, Tommy couldn't do it. So Vance is on book 2. He's well on with it now. Both book 2 and book 3, so Before They Are Hanged and Last Argument of Kings, will be printed together, and the printing for them should start after Hyperion's finished. So that'll be in summer. July, August, it'll start printing, and they're going to do them back to back. So they'll just go straight through. So that means at least I've got all the printed pages done. And the third artist for the Last Argument of Kings should be starting, I would have thought, in the next month or so. I haven't announced who that is yet, but I can now, sort of. I mean, it's not set in stone. It's probably going to be Greg Manchess, who's obviously an incredible
artist. Absolutely incredible artist.
Yeah, his resume is long, and when I spoke to Joe about potentially using Greg, Joe jumped at the chance. He was like, "Oh my god, Greg illustrate one of my books would be a dream come true." So that sort of sealed the deal for me, really. And his painterly style fits in quite well with Vance and with Tommy. So he'll be going on it soon. So I'm hoping to have Before They Hanged out before Christmas this year in terms of shipping. And Last Argument of the Kings, I'm probably going to pre-order in February 2025, but that should deliver quite quickly afterwards because I'll have the printed pages by then. I've said this before, haven't I? I've been told by the printer I'll have the pages by then, so it'll go straight into binding after that. So I would have thought, quarter 2 2025 it should deliver after pre-ordering. So it's coming faster than it would have done if we were able to stick with Tommy.
Yeah, I think the blade itself was delayed because of the artwork, right?
It was, yeah. Tommy had a lot of things going on at the time, and I don't want to release anything that I'm not supposed to say. He just had some personal things going on for quite some time, and he also had some neck problems. He's had a recurring trapped nerve in his neck, which is for a painter is, it's crippling. You can't do your work. So unfortunately, we ended up having to go back to the drawing board at one point. So that one was delayed because of the art, which is a bit frustrating. But I'm so glad that I waited because the art's fantastic.
And the result is still amazing though, so it's worth the wait. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, iconic. I'd say he's done such a great job. That cover is amazing. Blew
It's
me away.
almost universally loved, right?
I know, and it is. I know, which is really, really funny to say because that isn't the norm actually.
Yeah.
I thought that it was when I was like, oh great. So other stuff that's come out, people have been very nice about it, but it doesn't mean that that is universally loved. But yeah, with that one, everyone just seemed to resonate with it. So I'm sure there's one or two people out there who'll tell me they hate it. So if that's the case, just send me an email. That's fine. Just so I know that it's not universally loved.
Yeah, exactly. So, you spoke earlier, right, about Malazan being your favorite series of all time. And of course, there are many amazing series out there. And so, with that in mind, there are many incredible series out there. What are your steps and decision-making process for choosing which series get a Curious King treatment?
Yeah, so I mean, first thing, I've got to love the series. That really helps. And I mean, it's easy to say. So the first thing is I need to love it. It's going to be a title that I particularly enjoy. Otherwise, I can't really get into it, and I can't throw myself into it properly.
Yeah,
the second thing is probably it needs to have a good fan base as well. I'm a small press. I've only been doing this a few years. I'm no big name at all. So it really helps that the titles are popular as well, because that may entice more people to give my press a chance and to buy a book from it. So that's another thing that I consider. And another thing is ideally it's not had too many other limited editions done. That one's harder to do though sometimes, because the most loved ones have had them done a few times. So there is that balance. But yeah, I try and look at all three of those really. But yeah, I will hopefully delve into some less popular series in the future. I'll be discussing with a few publishers some. I'm hoping that I can get to the point where I've got some more loyal followers who won't mind looking at something maybe that isn't always in everyone's top 10 list or whatever, and top 20 list.
Yeah. I think this Curious King has been like 2 years now. 2 years, right?
No, it's 3, just over 3 now.
Oh, 3. It's 3 years now.
Well, yeah, if you count, Ready Player One, it's just over 3.
Yeah, true. And I think, the steady rise is really evident, Anthony. People are really jumping into Curious King more and more now. So I think you're doing a great job at this.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And speaking of big series, I think we have to address the elephant in the room. Robin Hobb tweet. Okay, Farseer Trilogy. I guess it's time to really say you are doing this, right?
Yes, this is the announcement nobody knows about of the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb, which I found out yesterday morning when I woke up that that Megan, lovely Megan, had mentioned something on Twitter about it. And look, it's not Megan's fault at all. I hadn't told her that. I probably was planning to announce this towards the end of the year. But yeah, no, I'm incredibly excited and lucky to be able to take on the Farseer Trilogy. It's an incredible series. It's one of my favorites. It's my wife's favorite series of all time. It's just fantastic. The prose, the story, the characters, everything about it is wonderful. And so, it was always in my, my top list of projects that I'd like to undertake. And I'm very thankful that I've been given a chance to have a go at it. So yeah, I'm going to try and do it justice.
Yeah, true. And this is like one of the most legendary series right now. I love this series so much. And I think that's also why so many people are so excited about this.
Yeah, they do seem quite excited, which is good. I mean, there is the one criticism I have heard is that there have been a couple of other editions done. Subterranean Press have done one. I mean, Subterranean Press has done basically everything, so you can always check that one off the list. And Folio Society did a trilogy in one slipcase, which was beautiful. So I do understand that some people would rather that maybe I focus on more stories like Legend, for example, that hasn't had a limited edition before. And I appreciate that, but there are some that I just feel like I just have to, even if it's just for me, because of how much I love it.
Yeah. And of course, this will be asked, but I assume you don't have the answer yet for this one. Will you do Live Ship and the rest of Realm of the Elderlings? We don't know.
I'm only contracted to Farseer Trilogy, so that's all that's planned at the moment. I mean, in an ideal world, maybe I do the rest of them, but I'm not looking past the Farseer at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I would love though for Curious King to do everything, because somehow, even though Farseer has received some special editions, none of them are letterpress. But it seems like not a lot of special editions goes beyond that. Only one live ship, I think, for Subterranean Press, but that's it.
What was that? Sorry.
Only live ship traders has received fine press edition treatment, but not. Yeah, that's it. I think only live ship
Yeah,
traders
so
has.
I think the only ones that have been done. So the fastest has been done a couple of times.
Mm,
Bill from Subterranean Press is doing Ship of Magic, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bill carried on. You know what I mean? He's a legend of the game. Bill, lots of love for Bill. We talk regularly. But yeah, so I think he should be coming out with book 2 very soon of the
mm.
live ship traders, and then I think he'll be working book 3. I think is going to follow this year as well. So. Yeah, he's well on with that, which is really good because there was quite a gap from the Farseer to live ship traders. So I think people are quite excited to see how they come out.
Yeah, well, I certainly will wish you the best of luck. I have no doubt that this will be the best version of Farseer Trilogy. But
I hope so.
this is still a while, right?
Is what? Sorry.
This is still a while, right?
Yeah, it's a while away. Yeah. So the artist, I think I can say the artist. The artist could be Lixin Yin.
Okay. Wow.
Really, really good artist. Yeah, beautiful portraiture work. I think the main thing
Yeah.
we want to capture with this is the characters because of the depth of all the characters. And rather than sort of big scenic concept type pieces, I think this one should be more focused on the characters to try and capture, the real elements of the story and the emotion that's involved in it. And Lixin Yin's fantastic at that. So he's reading the book at the moment. Yeah, this is really early, so I hadn't got very far at all before Robin mentioned that we're doing it. So the plan is probably to pre-order next year. I would have thought April maybe next year we'd pre-order with hopefully a fairly swift turnaround on that one because art should be done this year. So I'm doing my best to get all of my artists going way before I plan to announce things. Sometimes I don't get to announce them, but yeah, that's the current plan at the moment.
Oh my god. Someone asked me, Anthony, but once and for all, will we ever have a chance again to buy the blade itself, Curious King edition from Michael?
No, I'm afraid not. No, I've got nothing against people who do reprints, and I totally understand why. It gives people who missed the chance to get it the first time to have another shot at it. But I'm really trying to keep mine as true to limited edition as possible. So I have no plans to reprint any of my books.
Yeah. And we have been talking about Farseer Trilogy, Malazan, and also First Law. So it's about time someone asked about Legend. Question for Anthony. How did Legend Special Edition come about? It's also the 40 years anniversary of Legend's publication.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. It took me 2 years to track down Legend.
Amazing. 2 years?
Yeah. One of the reasons why probably I've done reasonably well when it's come to securing titles is persistence. In my previous roles in different industries, it works a little bit differently to the fine press world. It's a lot faster paced, and I'm used to hounding people until they talk to me, basically. So I was really struggling with Legend. So I kept contacting publishers, and they've all got rights databases, and these things aren't always up to date. So and they don't always do you favors necessarily if it's not a title they carry. But occasionally, I was told that there is so a couple of publishers put me onto another publisher, and I spoke to that publisher, and they said no, this publisher. And then eventually I ended up with being given the details of a publisher that didn't exist anymore. That was 20 years gone. So undeterred, I thought that there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to find this. Someone has these rights somewhere. So I was Googling around and I spent hours searching, trying to find names and things I could follow. And I found an article about this defunct press that doesn't exist anymore. And there was a chap named in there who was a director there, a publisher there, something along those lines, called Stan Nichols, who obviously had some involvement in it in a way, or with the press, with the publishers at least. So I tracked him down and I managed to find him on Facebook. I sent him a message just like, Stan, you don't happen to know at all where I can find the rights or anyone speaking of the rights of Legend? And he said, I might be able to help you. And I was like, oh, okay. And he said, look, And Stan actually is an accomplished author himself. He's the author of Orcs, and he's got quite a few books. Since the conversation, I've bought a few and read them, and he's a very good author. So he happened to have a link to Stella Gemmell, which is David's wife. David's
wife. Yeah.
David's wife. I don't know how you say it. So
Yeah.
there you go, David's widow. That's the one.
Yeah.
And he said, look, I do actually have a link. So, but Stella doesn't like being, bothered by these things very often, and she doesn't necessarily want people just knocking on her door and asking. Because I think a lot of people have tried to get the rights before because it's never been done before, and it's such a, a prominent book in UK fantasy. Anyway, so I went to town. So I wrote like a whole proposal, and then I wrote like a letter to Stella, basically just telling her how much I love the books and how much I'd love to do the books, and please, can I do the books? So Stan passed it across to Stella, and then a couple of weeks later, I heard from her agent, which was amazing. Said, "Look, we're interested. Can we?"
Wow,
and I was
amazing.
like, "Oh my God, really?" I know, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, "No wonder no one's got the rights to these things because they were just so hard to track down." But no, I'm really, really pleased because as a British press, a lot of the works that I do tend to be American, or a lot of my collectors are America or based in North America, and it was nice to be able to try and secure something of a legendary British author. Obviously, despite the fact doing Gerald Abercrombie is my first series, he's one of the best fantasy authors of all time, in my opinion. But yeah, to get something legend by David Gemmell was huge. Yeah, very pleased.
Yeah, and you got a Justin Sweet, right, to illustrate the books.
Justin Sweet is illustrating the books. Yeah, Justin's great. I was put onto Justin. I mean, I'd seen his stuff before by Jamie Jones, who's doing Hyperion.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, he's really cool. Again, he does lots of movies and TV and stuff like that. But he's also doing Game of A Song of Ice and Fire. He's doing some paintings for George R.R. Martin at the moment, I think. But yeah, I think really hard about the art process, but his style seemed to really fit. So Justin's doing the art, and he's on with it at the moment. So yeah, I'm hoping that we have the interiors done soon so that I can actually get to printing it, and then we can move on to the binding process. But yeah, Justin's work so far has been fantastic.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to making artwork or like cover art, interior art, are you involved in every art design and direction?
I try to be. The art's really important to me. It was basically what attracted me to collecting these books in the first place. Finding that amazing piece of Alejandro Rake, blew me away. So, and I think one of my favorite things about Fine Press is actually the art side of things, mainly because, there's so many of these beautiful, incredible stories that are loved by millions of people. There's so little art out there. I do understand people want to be able to visualize, their own headcanon, their own imagination, their own characters, etc. But I love being able to see good quality art of a book that I've read, and that's one of the best things that my favorite things about the press is the fact that I get to work with these incredible artists, the top of their game, and produce a decent amount of art for my books. And so I do get involved, but only as much as it all really depends on the author and the artist. A lot of artists do like having some art direction, as you probably know yourself, doing the Malazan stuff for Broken Binding. Some authors like to get involved with the art direction. Joe is heavily involved with the art direction with myself and the artists that we work with. And so so I do like to try and suggest stuff, scenes potentially, compositions sometimes, or I'll ask for certain bits that I may need for bindings that I'm designing. But yeah, I do try and get involved because I just find it so fascinating, and it's just so exciting seeing this stuff come out.
Yeah, I agree. It's so fun, right?
It's loads of fun. Honestly, it's amazing. Yeah, and then you get these pictures, and no one's ever seen them before, apart from the artist, and you're thinking, this is, possibly some of the best art that's ever been done for this book, and I can't believe I'm going to put it in my book. So yeah, it's awesome. Really cool.
You have definitely succeeded on that for the Blade itself, and then 5th season, and then definitely Hyperion, I think.
Yeah, James.
You got Jamie Jones, man.
Jamie Jones, he's possibly one of the most talented artists I've ever come across. He's he can do everything. He can do everything. Characters, close-ups, action,
Yeah.
concept stuff. He also paints in oils. He's done all the Hyperion colors in oils. He did them first digitally and then painted them in oils. He's even got the pen, even got his pen out. What was it? A quill and ink he used to do the black and whites. You know, and he can just do anything. He is seriously good. Yeah. So I'm really pleased he's doing full of Hyperion as well, because those two are quite close together in that Cantos. So having him doing that is fantastic, and he's working away on that already. We've already had our conversations about it.
Wow.
Yeah, he's already on that. So, but yeah, Jamie's fantastic, and there's another book I want to do with Jamie in future as well, which he quite likes, but I won't talk about that just yet.
Yeah.
Unless the author happens to mention it on Twitter, of course.
Hyperion Cantos is 4 books. You plan to do 4 of them, right?
Yeah, doing all 4. Yeah. Doing all 4. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was an unfinished Cantos. Quite ironic, really, about the story. I didn't do all 4, so I'm going to do all 4 definitely. Yeah, it's
awesome.
Yeah, fun.
And someone asked about this. This is still related to Legend. Huge fan of you both. Cannot wait to catch up on this area. How did you decide on doing a paperback version of Legend? I don't know about it.
I think maybe they think that my standard edition's a paperback, but it's
it's not. It's not paperback.
So I'm doing 3 tiers as per normal. So I'm doing the standard edition, the deluxe edition, and the lettered edition. All of them are letterpress printed, and I've increased the numbers of the standard edition to 500 because there seems to be a bit more buzz about it, especially from the UK collecting groups, and also the David Gemmell group on Facebook, which is awesome, by the way. Really good people. So I've increased that to 500. I'd love to do a trade, but that isn't really what I do, and it doesn't really fit into what I do. But I believe another publisher may be doing a traded edition later this year. I believe. I've just heard, but I don't know if it's true or not. So people who can't necessarily afford the standard edition, which I know it's not accessible for everyone. It isn't. I know it isn't. But for other fans who are looking for a trade to mark the 40th anniversary, I believe there might be one coming out later this year. So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Awesome. And someone asked a good question here. Does Anthony have a history in art and design? Everything in this edition showed that he has a keen eye.
No, not even close. No, I wanted to do graphic design at university. My parents said it was too competitive and to do accounting or finance instead. So I did accounting at university and failed, and I did IT and failed. And then I spent my early career in finance, and then in recruitment, and then in land buying. So I have no background in art or design, sadly. But I've always been really interested in art and design. It's something that I really enjoy getting involved in. I'm not that good at it, really. I can do some stuff. I wish I was better. I wish I was more capable. But I think what I am able to produce is good enough for people to want to buy. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, that's true. And one of the things that make Curious King really stand out is really the letterpress treatment. Not too many people, comparatively, not too many publishing has done letterpress treatment for their special editions. And do you think it's a must-have feature? I mean, it's very expensive, right?
It's incredibly expensive, especially for these books, because what people don't know about letterpress printing, well, some people do know. For the people who don't know, you have to get a plate made for each page. So the setup costs of printing a letterpress are astronomical, because before you can print one book, you have to have however many plates of pages that you have. And because my books are fantasy and sci-fi, they are usually hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages long. If I did shorter novels that were 150, 200 pages, it would be much cheaper for me to print these things, but also much cheaper for me to sell them, because my costs would be brought down. But because I'm doing so many and I'm doing limited runs, it becomes very, very expensive, especially when you add in a second color, because when you've got one color of letterpress printing and the black that goes across it, and then you say, for example, in Before They Are Hanged, I've got 50 chapters plus the title page and things like that, which have a different color on. So they then have to go back on the press, those 50 pages, those 50 templates, and then run those. So it's very expensive to do it just in black, but also when you do it 2 colors. But also because of the fact that the popularity of letterpress and how how much the collecting community is in love with it, and the other new presses like mine that are popping up at the moment who are using letterpress printing. That there's only a few letterpress printers out there really that tend to cater for the books, especially in the UK.
Okay.
So there's a lot more people using them than there were when I first started. So the prices have gone up for everything: the ink, the paper, the letterpress printing itself, the second colours. So it has become very, very expensive. But is it essential? I don't think it's essential. I think it's essential if you want to call it fine press. Personally, I don't necessarily think that everyone has agreed on that. But I personally, if I can use letterpress printing, I will. It's one of the things that attracted me to it, and I think it's one of the things that does set me apart a little bit from the likes of Subterranean and Grimoke, etc. Because they're offset printers, and what I do is letterpress. The problem is it makes my editions more expensive, and it takes longer to do them, so it requires a bit more money on the collector side and a bit more patience. But I don't think it's essential. I won't necessarily do letterpress for every single edition that I do. I will try and do letterpress for as many as I can, especially for the ones that just screaming out for it. But I have my eye on a couple of lesser known series, which I don't know if I could make work financially, letterpress printing, because of the thickness and the size, the amount of pages. If one's 600-700 pages, it's just prohibitive unless you're selling thousands of copies, which I don't do. But I may consider using offset in the future. I have actually asked the question on my Facebook and got a mixed response.
So, this one.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it kind of fits what I'm about to ask, because there are, as I said earlier, there are so many series out there, and well, a lot of them deserve like this high quality edition. But you're on point though about profit and all that, because if I remember correctly, the Blade itself, the letterpress edition for the standard, doesn't earn you a lot of profit, right?
No, very little. I can't actually sell my standard editions to third party sellers because I don't make as much margin on it as they require to sell them for a profit, which is a bit frustrating. The only people I have let have any are Bill and it was just Bill at Subterranean Press. That's a thank you to Bill for being so helpful in the early part of doing Curious King. I lose money by selling books to Bill, but I felt like I owed him one, so I will try and sell Bill copies where possible. But yeah, I make barely anything on the standard editions at the runs that I do at the cost that they are. But as a collector previously who didn't have very much money, I will always try and do a standard edition wherever possible to try and at least give a more affordable option. I'm not saying it's affordable, I'm saying it's more affordable option to collectors who can't spring for deluxe and for the lettered editions. A smart business decision would probably be just to go for just to cancel standard editions altogether and just do deluxe and lettered editions. But that doesn't sit right with me. I want to do standard editions, wherever possible. But unfortunately, due to the very, very thin margins that I get on them, it can be quite tricky as to whether it's going to go well or not. So I do have to think about it. But I'm hoping that the bigger fan base and the bigger collector base that I get, that if I can increase my standard editions from 500 to maybe 600, 700, something like that makes them more viable because of the economies of scale, and hopefully will allow me to do more, to make sure that I can do letterpress printing more regularly. On all my editions, ideally, and also hopefully bring the price down as well, because if I can spread that cost out a bit more, then it does help.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The more you print, the cheaper, right? The price of the printing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that's also why Folio Society books are relatively cheaper, right?
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I've been speaking to a couple of Folio Society's printers, because what Folio do fantastic. The quality of their machine binding is really, really high. The design's always really, really good, and the price points are fantastic. And that's partly through machine binding and offset printing, but also the fact they can sell 1,000 of these, 1,500 of those, 2,000 of those, which allows them to do it for a much more reasonably priced. So I am actually looking at, can't say anything about it really, but I'm working on a big sci-fi series at the moment, popular one, and it should be popular enough that I can do the standard edition offset and the deluxe and the lettered edition letterpress. You can't usually do both, and the reason you can't do both is because the setup costs are so expensive on letterpress printing that having something else printed offset costs more. Whereas letterpress, you can just keep pages rolling and just do more of them. So actually trying to split them up, it doesn't work out that well. But unless you can sell 1,000 standard editions, 2,000 standard editions, so I'm looking at doing potentially an offset standard in the future. Again, to bring the price right down so everyone hopefully can afford it to that folio society sort of level.
People are already asking whether the popular series is Red Rising. Red Rising, Red Rising. I wished. Oh my god. And then thanks for keeping standard edition available. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Has Anthony considered adding exclusive dust jacket art as a tip in for deluxe editions?
Yes, I have. I nearly did it once.
Oh, already?
I nearly did it once. Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you mean. It'd be nice to be able to do that. But I think it's what makes a standard edition so special. I understand that people who buy the deluxe and the lettered may feel like they're missing out with that piece of art. But we try and do print runs of the covers. So we should hopefully be doing the one for 5th season at some point in the next couple of months. But no, I think for the time being, I will keep it exclusive to the standard edition, just because, again, it's another thing for the standard edition owner to have. If they can't afford the leather bound ones and the nice boxes and things like that, it means that they've got something in particular. But also, one thing I'm starting to find with the dust jacket thing is that I spend all this time designing these books and then I cover it up with this dust jacket. So I think the 5th season is particularly one. I was so pleased with how it looks with the marbled cloth and the slipcase and the label, etc. That I almost didn't do a dust jacket for it. I had the image, which was for the dust jacket, and I thought of turning that into the end paper and having the end paper as a fold out.
Okay, yeah.
That was going to be an idea, but then I thought, people will be upset they've not got a dust jacket, because I know there's lots of collectors of the standard edition who love dust jackets, and it does seem crazy. And I love wraparound dust jackets. All of my dust jackets will be wraparound dust jacket. That's damn sure.
Awesome. I love that.
They're the best, right? Yeah, and ideally
they're the best.
You're getting upset that I'm not putting any text on them, so I'm trying to put some subtle text on them. But yeah, I think it will stay exclusive for now for the standard edition. I may change my mind in the future. We'll see.
The 5th season dust jacket is gorgeous. Please use purple whenever possible.
That's great. It's one of my favorite colors. Good shout.
Yeah, it is a beautiful color, like this one. So beautiful.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, all the
John
crystal.
Ansell did an amazing job on that. I think he talked to me when he was doing it. He was like, I've been through the ringer with this one, man. It's like all the lighting and the reflections and things like that, because it's obviously supposed to be a giant. I know Kastream is actually white, but we wanted to keep it purple for the amethyst sort of thing. And he was like, it's kicking my ass, man. really struggling to get it all up. But anyway, look what he did. Fantastic. He nailed it. But yeah, purple's a great color. So I'm glad I used it. But book 2 will be, I might as well just tell people. Book 2 is going to be sapphire. So it's going to be the sapphire obelisk.
Okay, yeah.
And book 3 will be the onyx obelisk. Onyx, obsidian? Onyx, I think.
Book 2 is supposed to be Obelisk Gate, the title. The third one is Stone Sky. Yeah.
But basically, what I agreed with Nora when I was coming up with these ideas was to pick a gemstone. Well, not a gemstone, to pick an obelisk, because obviously there's 8 different obelisks, I think, in the book. To pick one that was key to each book. So I can base my design around that. So the amethyst is the one most prominent in the first book. The sapphire is the most prominent in the second book. And the onyx is the most prominent in the third book. So that formed my sort of design ethos around it, really. So the next book will be blue, and the next one after that will be black. Hopefully they'll look good together. We'll find out.
And one of the things that you did, this is for the deluxe edition, you attached this amethyst, right, to the spine. How did you do that?
I didn't do it.
Okay, that's fair.
I asked, I have a thing now where I have an idea and I just go to Ludlow. I'm like, I've had an idea. Can I do it this way? And they look at me like, I think so. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So basically, with the amethysts, I had them ground down as best as possible. It's quite difficult. Amethyst is a really brittle stone. People don't realize. So I had that ground down and then attached. And then on the lettered edition, I don't actually have my own version yet. So sorry, can't show you. But the lettered edition has actually got an amethyst shard. So it's actually like a more broken version. And that's in the front. And obviously the Roman numeral's got the amethyst box. But yeah, so I think I had them sanded down by my sister-in-law, actually, who has one of those sort of wheel things, sanding wheels, and then sent to Ludlow for attaching. And yeah, they've done a great job. I think they found it very difficult to try and attach them. Attaching stone to leather is not very easy, apparently. But they've done a good job. I think there's only been one issue with it with an amethyst so far, and most of them have gone out. So that's good. I'm sure I'll get lots of messages like, "Oh, I was taking my book off the shelf the other day and I knocked it off." So I may get another 100 ground down so I can send them out for replacements. We'll see. But yeah, no, I love the way it came out, and they did a great job of binding it.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the unique thing about Curious King. There are some insane designs, man, that you have put on your books. Really insane. I mean, we haven't even talked about the Roman numeral stuff. Those stuff are insane. How did you come up with that?
Well, the Roman numeral for the 5th season was great because I was thinking of ideas for the box, and in my head, I just had the idea of this book in a geode, like a amethyst geode.
Yeah.
So I tried to find some geodes online that were big enough, and they're like crazy expensive, and wasn't sure it was going to work. Anyway, I thought, who's going to be able to do this? Ludlow aren't the people to do this sort of thing, so I went looking for stonemasons, as you do. So yeah. I contacted about 15 stonemasons, and most of them were like, and I said to them, it was like, look, hey, I really want to make a box out of amethyst. Can you help me? All of them were like, no, we can't do that. No, leave me alone. And I just kept going and kept going and kept going. Everyone kept saying no and said no and said no. And then I contacted one chap called Nick Robertson. He's a really nice guy. He actually lives around the corner from me, which is insane. He's like 2 miles away. And he was like, no, yeah, I think it could be done, but it'll cost you a couple of grand. And I was like, it can be done. Let's have a problem. Let's have a chat. And he was like, okay. So I went round and we started talking about it. And then he kept trying to steer me away from having the boxes made out of amethyst and having them made out of something that maybe was purple stone, a different purple stone, something. Because again, amethyst is so brittle, so hard to work with that it can do it. And I was like, okay, we can look at maybe some other ways of doing this. And every time I sat down with him, I was like, could we not just try doing it with amethyst? Is it, you know? And he was like, I don't think it's possible. Anyway, I thought I'm going to look myself. So I managed to find, again, thank God for Google, right? I managed to find some amethyst slabs, big long amethyst slabs in India that looked like they used worktops or something, for rich people, worktops. Anyway, so I took a picture and I went round to Nick and I was like, I know you said we can't really do it this way, but I was like, I found this. Can we do this? And he was like, oh, I've not seen that before. He was like, yeah, that might work actually. I was like, oh my God, we can actually do it. Now, amethyst, that's actually been bonded with resin to make it super hard and to actually bind it together. So anyway, so we got a big slab. He managed to get that thing cut in half, water cut in half, the thickness into half. And then, it was good enough to stop chopping these things up. But yeah, usually I have like, when I'm trying to think of an idea, I have a bit of a crazy idea or something. I think what would be the most insane thing. And then some of them just are never going to happen. But then some of them are like, maybe that could work. I don't know, because I did Ready Player One, and that was like, I want to put a book in an Atari. And I eventually managed to work out how to put a book in an Atari. It makes me realize that I think some of these things are more possible if you just go looking and try and find the right person. Somebody who's insane enough to try it, really.
Like you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I need to find somebody who's insane enough to try and bring my vision to life. When I was doing Ready Player One, I rang up Paul Ludlow's and I was like, Paul, I want to put a book in an Atari. Do you think it's possible? And he was just like, maybe. Let's have a go. I was like, great. So so you need to find somebody equally mad to run with these ideas. But yeah, occasionally I'll have a really good idea. I think that fits really well. That's a bit more out there. I try not to do anything too gimmicky.
Yeah.
But I mean, probably some people say some of my stuff is gimmicky. That's fine. But I try and always pare it down to look a bit more contemporary and a bit more, so the design doesn't look over the top necessarily. But I don't know if I can say that with a box made out of amethyst. I don't know.
True. Also, speaking of these things, I mean, they are not easy to do. What would you say the most difficult and challenging things about, well, handling Curious King up to now?
The supply chain. It's going to sound really
Supply
businessy.
chain.
It's everything in this industry takes a long time for good reasons. Everything is done by expert, creative artisan. And there's a reason why these things are expensive, because they are done by experts and such like. So the thing I found most difficult when starting was the supply chain. So art, for example, that took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. Yeah. And it's not just one artist, quite a lot of artists, you know what I mean? As I say, need long lead times, and things can happen that put them back. And if they're doing it evenings, weekends, goes backwards. Letterpress printing, there's only a couple of good people who do it in the UK. There's lots of people trying to do letterpress printing at the moment. So it's very difficult to get stuff in on time. If I'm trying to do 4 books a year, that means that, they need to be on those projects pretty much, at least one a quarter. And if other people want to do 3 or 4 books a year, and if somebody else wants to do a book here and somebody else, it becomes a bit of a fight really as to who gets in. So that can take a while, and also the binding process takes some time as well. I mean, quite rightly so. It's all hand done. It's all done by craftspeople, and these things aren't exact science, and issues sometimes crop up in the binding process or after the binding process. So I think that the difficulty I've had is trying to schedule these things. And stick to those schedules. It's been a massive learning curve for me since I started, and so I've been working really, really hard to try and get enough projects on the go at the moment, that with artists already underway, that when I start to announce projects, they'll be much closer to finishing. And if one goes backwards because an artist has had a major issue, or something's gone wrong with the printing, and it goes backwards 3 months, 6 months, that's not a problem, because I'll hopefully have something else that I can put in its place. So the idea is not to start ramping up and doing 10, 12 books a year. The idea is to try and do 4 or 5 books a year. But yeah, hopefully with a bit more accuracy when it comes to scheduling. You can never be accurate. One thing I've noticed in this industry is that, everyone's used to delays in this world, and from a supplier perspective, so it's just normal for them. Oh, sorry, we missed a slot on that one, so it'll be 3 months time. And that's normal. I'm not used to that personally. I'm used to, hitting deadlines and making sure things happen at the right time. And so I'm just trying to adjust to that. But I'd say that's probably the hardest part.
And the price of paper has increased a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, the price of paper. And yeah, I think paper, since I've started doing it, if you want to talk about how I've been publishing rather than rebinding, the 2 years that I've done it, paper's gone up at least 90%. It's crazy.
90%?
Yeah. Well, I've got it on my invoices from when I first. I was quite smart when I bought my first load of paper. I bought 3 books worth, so because I knew there was going to be price increases. But yeah, I mean, the price of book board has gone up more than 100% since I started doing this.
Dear God.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's difficult when you're trying to keep prices at a reasonable level. When some people will argue they're not at a reasonable level already.
Absolutely. Would you ever consider the Wheel of Time? That's 16 books, man. That's 15 books.
Yeah, completely. No one's done the Wheel of Time. I'd love to do the Wheel of Time. It's a great series. I mean, not everyone's favorite, but I mean, it's a legendary series. It's fantastic. No one's done it before. It's a lot of books. So I think people are like, they'll probably be retired by the time I finish. I've never got my hands on it. There's going to be a reason why no one's done it so far, but I'm going to try and get it if I can, for sure. Yeah, I'd definitely like to do
it.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. Greg Manchas worked on that.
What, sorry?
Greg Manchas.
Has he worked on the Wheel of Time?
Yeah, on the book number 6, Lord of Chaos. He did the cover.
I don't know the artist for each cover, but that wouldn't surprise me, because Greg Manchas probably did some stuff in the 1900s that we've seen and loved.
And if you have considered the Wheel of Time, would you consider doing your own marathon? And someone asked, can you show us your version of Gardens of the Moon?
can't show you my version. No,
Yeah.
I sent it to Stephen and I never got it back. So fortunately, I don't have my own copy, which is a shame, really. So I can't show you it. If you want to go on my Instagram, and you go right to the very bottom, there are pictures of the Gardens of the Moon that I did, and you can see all the pictures there. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, they're beautiful, beautiful.
But I'd love to do Malazan, of course I would, but not for a while. I think Subterranean Press have been doing the reprints. Broken Binding and doing their version, which is very exciting. And so I think I'll probably leave it some time. It's my favorite book of all time, my favorite series of all time. Of course, I'd love to do it. I kind of have to do it one day if Stephen will let me. If Stephen will let me do it, that's probably the key thing is getting his blessing. But yeah, I mean, if I could snag the Wheel of Malazan Book of the Fallen, I'd probably die happy. So it's top of my list of Holy Grail books to publish.
I definitely will wish you the best of luck to adapt that into Curious.
It
will be mind blowing, man.
Well, I hope so. But the problem with that book series is that all the books are so long.
Yeah.
So it makes me think about, can you even letterpress print them? Because if you've got a book that's 1,000 pages, I mean, it's physically possible, but 1,000 pages, I'd have to sell. The price of them would be extortionate because of the fact that I would have 1,000 plates made up for each book. Binding books, that's obviously, don't forget when you letterpress print, all the pages need to be folded into from 16s into 4s. So for every single book. So it's an incredibly laborious process for a long book to do letterpress printing. Of course, I'd love to do it letterpress printed, but then you start to think about, do I need to start doing this? Do each book in 2 volumes because of how thick it is. Then you're doubling the price of the binding because you're binding 2 books per book. So it's got some logistical problems, but as I said, I put a book in an Atari. So trying to get the Malazan done in letterpress, I'm sure it's possible.
Well, if anyone can do it, it's you, Anthony.
Thanks, Petrik. No pressure.
And we have talked about the difficult things. What are the best parts of working as the owner of Curious King up to now, for 2 or 3 years now?
2 things. Working well. No, I mean everything. Can I say everything? I love it. I love it. I consider myself incredibly lucky to be able to do this for a living. I've done lots of other jobs, careers before, and other businesses, and this to work with books. My favorite thing is working with the authors and the artists. That's incredible. Being able to have a chat with Joe and Vance, about art, and him actually care about what I have to say blows my mind. Yeah, I know. What do you mean you're listening to me? I'm an idiot. Why would you listen to me?
No, you're not, man.
What I'm talking about. I've only been doing this for years. But no, I love doing that. Interacting with the authors and the artists is fantastic. And just getting to produce my own versions of the books. Do you know what I mean? That is just, I love the customized stuff, one-on-one things and that sort of things. And being able to create my own version of a book that I love, and to get that on my shelf is the most satisfying thing. It really is. And nothing tops it, really.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, I'm not creating books like you, but
you're doing the art though. I mean, that's having an input into that is so rewarding, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is very rewarding, especially seeing the results. But I don't have a copy yet of my own, so I don't know how it feels yet. But I'm speaking more like The First Law is really one of my favorite series of all time. Like seeing this kind of treatment being given to one of my favorite books, it just it makes me happy. And I bet I can say the same for many other readers who got your books as well.
Yeah, I think books, apart from the fact, until I read this sort of fine press world, when I try and explain it, because what I do is quite niche, and a lot of people that I know don't really understand what it is I do. But the way I sort of try and say it is that books can change people's lives. Certain books can change people's lives, and they can be so important. Somebody will read a book every single life, and there isn't really any way to commemorate that. You know what I mean? No one really can do that. Maybe they got a hardback first edition and they're like, yeah, it's on my shelf, I love that. And so what I wanted to do, and what I love the fact that I can do, is actually elevate the surroundings of the story to a level that sort of tries to justify the quality and the love for the book. It's to try and do it justice, to give it the treatment that I think it deserves. And I understand that comes at a price, and it does when you have all these other people involved, and I do understand it. You know, some editions really aren't available to people, but
Yeah.
the whole idea is to try and commemorate that particular book, that series, that you know, that literary, you know, IP that in a way that's deserved, and to have incredible craftspeople working on these things. You know, I don't have kids in China churning these books out. You know, these are done by people who are bookbinders, who are letterpress printers, who are you know, full-time artists, and people, you know, who are incredibly good at what they do, and everyone adds their touch to it, and hopefully, you know, produces something that I think is worthy of the title.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not parting way with these books ever.
No, good.
No, never.
That's what I like to hear.
These are mine now.
Yeah, right. But it's nice. It's also another thing I love about what I do is when somebody who really loves the book, the series, and likes what I do gets one of my books. You know, I wish for all of my books to go to people who want them. That's my dream, really. You know, and I've tried to help people out in the past who haven't been able to afford them and stuff, just because I've been able to put a copy aside for somebody who I know will treasure that for the rest of their life, means more to me than the fact that somebody might be buying it because it might go up in value or something. What I really want because I'm a collector first and foremost. I still collect. You know what I mean? I've got Printed Press at their Lyras. I've got Game of Song of Ice and Fire by Printed Press. You know, I'm a collector, and I know what that's like to be a collector, and how much those books mean to me. And so, you know, my goal really is to try and get my books into the hands of people who love the books and like what I've done with them.
Yeah, true. And I agree with this. Books are wonderful. I've made friends outside of this country because of books made from fine press publishers. It is niche, but it's done a lot of for readers and collectors. Yeah, that's true.
Totally agree with that. I think also the book collecting community is one of the nicest communities I've ever come across. It is astoundingly fantastic. Everyone is so supportive of each other. I've befriended many people, collectors and publishers, since I got into it, and you know, everyone looks out for each other. It's a great community to be part of, and we're all here because we love books. We're all here because we love books, and we like leather-bound books. So it's a bit of both.
Yeah, so I guess we will move on to the final questions. Well, not questions, but this time we will ask Anthony to really talk about the state of the series that he's working on. Well, Anthony already did in his newsletter, but this is just kind of like a recap of what's going on right now. So I guess we'll start with what's next. Hyperion?
Hyperion, yeah. So it's being printed right now. I'm going down. I was supposed to go down today, actually, and take some footage, but I've been very busy, so I've not been able to. So I'm going down next week. So that's being printed 3-4 weeks. I think that'll be done, and then straight to binding. So that one should be out late summer. The art's already in for that one. It's been printed and proofed, and it's on the way to Ludlow. So no artists delays on this one. Jamie's been fantastic. Wow. So that one will be out soon. Jamie's already working on book 2, which is great. Then, so this is Before They Are Hanged. So
before they are hanged. Yeah, before they are hanged. Yeah.
That's next, I think. So I've got a lot of books here on the moment. I forget sometimes what the orders are. So Before They Are Hanged is the art's nearly done. It's being printed straight after Hyperion. Nice. And I mentioned before that I'm doing both book 2 and 3 back to back on that one on the printing, so that won't be a hurdle going forward. So yeah, so that one should be printed late summer. Hopefully binding straight away before Christmas. That's the goal. Again, these things often go backwards, and I keep people as updated and transparent as possible on my newsletters. But yeah, that's the current plan. We'll be sitting here this time next year talking about when Before They're Hanged coming out, I'm sure.
Let's not hope. Let's not. Hopefully, it doesn't come to that. Okay.
No, God, no. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I might have to leave the industry now. I'm joking. So then Legend. So Legend pre-ordering at the end of this month, early July. So the prototypes are in construction at the moment. We've done some testing. I've got quite a cool thing going on with the lettered edition, which I'm not going to tell anyone anything about. I'm sure someone will probably guess it. But yeah, so that's happening at the moment. So I'm still planning to take pre-order on that one later this month or early July. But I will put a post out, a newsletter out in the next week once I've got confirmation, because I just need to make sure that the prototypes are fine and okay, and they look all right, and they're the right materials. And then that one will be printed. It's scheduled for August. Again, hopefully be done this year. again, we'll see. I know Justin's had some issues getting started on this project due to some family problems, so he's taken a bit longer from the initial sort of planned art start date, but he's trying to make up time at the moment. So, but yeah, I know there's a lot of people very eager to understand when the actual date is, and I will make sure I give everyone at least 2 weeks notice for the release of the prototypes and what they look like, and then another 10 days minimum before the pre-order. So people will have a minimum 3 weeks from when I say to get prepared for the public pre-order on that one.
Yeah, I think that's really fair. That's really fair.
Yeah, I try to. The difficulty is that I try and space my pre-orders out over the year so they're not all bunched up, because I know that helps people out. So then sometimes I'm on deadlines trying to get stuff done in certain times, and things go backwards in this industry as per usual. So, but yeah, I'm still hopeful for that one this year. And then it's Fall of Hyperion, which has jumped in front of Obelisk Gate. Fall of Hyperion, Jamie's working on that. He's really efficient. We're not doing a Roman numeral on that one. We're just doing the 2 editions, the deluxe and the lettered edition. So hopefully pre-order for that one in Q3, with shipping mid next year, I would have thought. Mid next year. So again, it really depends on the letterpress printers. And their schedules. I'm getting stuff done as early as possible in the interiors so they can go straight ahead. Then Hitchhiker. Yes. Yes. So that one I want to pre-order before the end of the year, November. Gary's doing great work on the interiors for that. Marcelo's Marcelo is designing the interiors for the first time. I usually design the interior myself, but Gary works really well with Marcelo, and Marcelo's been doing this for like 30 years, so he's way better than I am. So I thought it was sensible to use those guys on it, and they're doing great work so far. So we're working on the just started the concepts of the prototypes. In fact, I've got a call with Gary after this. So hopefully November pre-order with delivery mid next year as well, I would have thought. And I've increased the standard editions of that one to 750 just because it's such a well-loved and popular book. And also the good thing about it is it's shorter. It's only 250 pages, The Hitchhiker's the original. So I'm hopefully be able to bring the price down on that one as well. So we should make it more affordable for people. You know, when I get savings, I don't tend to take more money myself. I tend to try and bring the price down. That's kind of how I want to do it, because I think that's fair. I think I do just fine on what I do. So if I can bring the price down because I've got a shorter book, then I totally will.
And as I said earlier, I don't think people know just how expensive letterpress printing is.
Yes, it's getting more expensive. You know, my letterpress printer's put its prices up, one of them anyway, 3 times in the last 18 months. And quite rightly so. I totally understand why. But yeah, it's difficult when you start a series and then 2 years later, you've got another, third book that's got more pages, more chapter headings. And it's gone up, trying to keep it to a reasonable price. It's tricky.
Yeah. And I think that's about it, right, for the series you're working on right now, I think. Well, and
the ones I've talked about, the Farseer, obviously,
Yeah, but Anthony still has some secrets. Don't worry, everyone.
I do, plenty.
Yeah. So for the last question, I guess, can you give us any hints on what's to come? Just a bit.
Yeah, can a little bit. People are really good at hints in the book collection.
Yeah.
I could say a word and someone will get it within 5 minutes. So yeah, I've got quite a few things in the works. So I've got the most imminent ones are another fantasy series. Printing this one as a trilogy. The author isn't alive, but I have got somebody from the family to get involved. And I've got a really cool artist on this one who's done quite a few other stuff. So that one I'll probably announce later this year. That's planned for next year. The artist should be starting next month. I've got a standalone sci-fi novel, which I'm very excited about, which I'll be doing as well for next year, I think. A roadmap. But yeah, I want to try and do more standalones. I appreciate that starting so many series sort of intimidates people a little bit. In fact, they're on the hook for quite a lot of books. So I'm trying to do more standalones so that there's a bit more variety in what I release. So the other, and there's a big sci-fi series which I mentioned, and there is also a fantasy standalone which I think Jamie Jones really wants to do.
Oh my god!
Yeah, no, Jamie wants to do a book. You do the book.
Amazing, amazing.
I've got that one bubbling away, but again, that one could be 2 or 3 years. That one, just because Jamie's working on Fall of Hyperion, and he won't be able to start that one until afterwards. And I haven't got the rights to it yet, but I'm confident I think I can get them. But yeah, so that's a
I guess this means that after Fall of Hyperion, Jamie will work on Endymion, right? Immediately.
Well, we haven't agreed that yet.
Okay.
We only originally agreed the first book. I obviously would love him to do. I want him to do all 4. That's the goal. But I think, again, as Jamie has a day job, working in big movies and computer games, not small fry books, he can only give a certain amount of time. It took him 17 months, 16 months from the start of Hyperion to do the art for that. And I expect him to do this one in less than a year, probably Fall of Hyperion, because there's less to do because there's no 4th book. I'd love Jamie to do Endymion and Rise of Endymion, but we'll see. The one good thing about switching between the 2 would be, though, if I did use another artist or Jamie couldn't do the final 2, is that the 2 stories kind of are encapsulated. They're part of the big wider story, but they are 2 sort of storylines. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if I used another artist for it. And it also would mean that I could probably get going on that quite quickly, so people aren't waiting years and years and years for these books.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's really the end of today's conversation with Anthony. But for closing this interview, I just want to say thank you so much, Anthony, for coming to my YouTube channel. It really means a lot, seriously. And as I said, for those of you who are watching this right now, I know that this kind of books, they are very expensive. They are expensive. There's no doubt about that. But if you spot some of your favorite series, like I spot The Blade itself, the first law, they are worth the money if you are willing to invest that much. Trust me, this is something that will last your lifetime. That's really my perspective.
And I hope people get good value from them. So whilst they may not be cheap, what you get for your money goes a lot further than I think than some other industries.
Yeah, true. And I think that's really pretty much from us today. And I want to say thank you so much to all of you who watched through this interview. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to Anthony. And please make sure to check out Curious King's website. Okay, thank you, Anthony.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.